Ever wish you could, like, bottle that feeling of a productive weekend?
Hmm.
When you actually get stuff done.
Yeah, totally.
Well, today we're diving into Million Dollar Weekend by Noah Kagan. Maybe he's figured out the secret, but for, building a business.
And not just any business. The goal here is launching one that makes money. All in like 48 hours. It's
Ambitious.
a tall order, but Kagan's no stranger to those.
That's right. We're talking about Facebook's 30th employee here. This is someone who saw hyper-growth firsthand.
And what's really cool is that he took those lessons, the wins, the should have done this differently moments, and made a framework out of them for action.
Which is perfect, because that's what this deep dive is all about. No more overthinking, no more endless planning. Time to get our hands dirty.
It's about taking those first kind of scary steps, even if you don't have it all figured out just yet.
Okay, I'm already feeling less guilty about that project I keep putting off. So how does Kagan say we break free from that analysis paralysis and start something?
He calls it the NW not how mindset.
NW, not how.
Yeah, so instead of getting bogged down in how you'll do something, you just start. Now, action first, logistics later.
So it's like, often the act of starting makes the how clearer, right?
Exactly. Kagan would say more often than all the planning in the world could.
It's like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, but for starting a business.
100%.
Do you have a favorite story from the book that shows this in action?
Totally. Kagan talks about working with an ad agency. This is for his company, AppSumo. And instead of the usual back and forth waiting for emails, he basically forced them to figure everything out right then on the call.
Whoa, no messing around? Did it work? Or was it just chaos?
It saved them a full day of waiting.
Wow.
Proof that sometimes the fastest action is the most efficient one.
It's kind of like that post-workout high. You might dread it beforehand, but once you start, you get this momentum.
100%. And that momentum brings us to Kagan's first big challenge, the dollar challenge.
Right, the dollar challenge. This one's interesting. You ask someone for a single dollar as an investment. It seems almost too simple.
And that's the point. It's so easy to come up with reasons why our idea won't work. But asking for a dollar, low stakes, gets you used to putting yourself out there.
It's like building that ask muscle.
Exactly, which, by the way, is essential for any entrepreneur.
So true. And you never know, someone might surprise you and be willing to support a friend's dream with $1, even as a joke.
And that validation can be huge. That little bit of momentum that someone else believes in you can really get you going.
It's like planting a seed, right? Might seem tiny, but it has the potential to grow into something amazing. Which actually makes me think about Kagan's own dad, who I think was his salesman.
He was, yeah. And incredibly successful, too.
And he didn't even speak much English when he moved to the U.S.
I know, right? Kagan learned a lot about fearlessness from him. Watching his dad navigate that world, all the rejections, it shaped how he approaches business.
He tells this great story about cringing as a kid while his dad chatted up potential customers, getting rejected left and right.
But he never gave up. That's chutzpah, that audacity, you know? It's fuel for entrepreneurs.
It's like rejection is just part of the game. You can't let it stop you.
Exactly.
But it's so easy to get caught up in that fear of no. What if we looked at those no's differently? Like as opportunities to improve our idea, or maybe they know someone else who'd be interested.
Absolutely.
And it's not even just about business either. Being able to ask for what you want confidently, whether it's a raise, a favor, setting boundaries, that's huge for life.
Huge.
Okay, so we need to build this ask muscle.
Yeah.
But how? Especially if we're starting from zero.
Well, Kagan has this challenge, the coffee challenge.
Oh, I've heard about this.
It's about getting comfortable with no in a really low-stakes way. Go into a coffee shop, ask for a discount, just to hear no.
Rejection therapy.
Exactly. You desensitize yourself to it. It's not the end of the world.
Kagan actually shared some stories from people who did this, right?
He did. Dieter, Jennifer, Jason, they all said they felt so much more confident in all areas of their lives after doing it.
It's like anything else. That fear is often so much worse than the actual experience.
For sure.
It reminds me of that quote, everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear.
Love that.
And by facing that fear of rejection, we open ourselves up to so much more.
Totally. And more than just being immune to rejection, it's about reframing it. Each no is just bringing you closer to a yes. And speaking of redirection, that leads us perfectly into finding that million-dollar idea in the first place.
Okay, finding the right idea. Makes sense.
Kagan is all about what he calls a customer-first approach.
Customer first. I like it already. But what's that actually look like in reality?
Basically, before you even think about logos or building a website, you got to understand the problem you're solving for your customer.
It's easy to get ahead of ourselves, right?
Totally. And Kagan actually uses his own story as a cautionary tale here. His fantasy sports site, Bait Arcade.
Oh, right. That was the one that didn't, it totally flopped.
Big flop. And he thought he'd built this amazing website, poured his heart into it.
What went wrong?
He made the classic mistake of building something he thought was cool instead of something the market actually needed.
So it wasn't solving a real problem for people.
Nope. Tough lesson. But it totally changed how he approaches business.
Well, good thing he learned it for us. So how do you bounce back from that?
That's where his payments platform, Gambit, comes in.
Gambit, right.
So he and a bunch of other game developers were all struggling with their payments provider at the time, OfferPal.
High fees, bad customer service, that kind of thing.
The whole 9 yards. It was a nightmare.
So he was like, I'll just make a better one.
Exactly. He knew their pain points firsthand, so Gambit was a huge success.
Makes sense. And wasn't AppSumo born from a similar place?
Yep. He was frustrated with the cost of software, so he created a platform for more affordable deals.
It's funny how often our own frustrations can be a gold mine, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's one thing to see a problem you have. How do you find those hidden pain points that other people are dealing with?
Start with your zone of influence, Kagan says.
Okay, zone of influence.
It's all the stuff you already know, your skills, your interests, even your annoyances.
So, like, I'm a big reader, and I always lose my place in a book if I don't have a bookmark.
Boom. There's your problem. Maybe you invent the world's best bookmark or a book tracking app.
I like how you think. Does Kagan give any other examples in the book? Real-world ones?
Oh, yeah. Tons. He talks about his buddy Boris, who was super into weightlifting, noticed a lot of guys at his gym complaining about the quality of weightlifting straps.
So Boris swoops in with a solution.
Exactly. Started a whole business selling high-quality straps, turned his passion into profit.
I love that. Okay, so let's say we've brainstormed, we've got a few ideas swirling around.
Yeah.
How do we actually know if it's worth pursuing? Like, $1 million idea versus just a regular Tuesday idea.
Kagan has a tool for that. He calls it the 1-minute business model.
1-minute business model.
That's catchy. I'm listening. It's all about assessing an idea fast. No getting bogged down in research for weeks. He actually walks through it using his sumo jerky experiment as an example.
Hold on, sumo jerky. Did he actually?
Oh, yeah. He tried to launch a whole jerky business in a weekend, as one does.
Of course. So how does this 1-minute model work?
First, you got to figure out demand. Are people actually looking for a solution to the problem you're solving?
So in Kagan's case, are people desperately Googling best beef jerky or something?
Exactly. Google Trends is your friend here.
Got it. What's next?
Next, you estimate your market size. Doesn't have to be perfect, just a ballpark.
Okay, ballpark, I can do that. But how do I go from people like jerky to this could make me $1 million? That's the $1 million question.
It's surprisingly simple. Set a price for your product.
Let's say $10 a bag for this amazing sumo jerky.
Perfect. Now, based on your research, how many customers could you realistically reach in a year?
With online sales, maybe some farmers markets, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000.
Okay, let's say 2,000. Multiply that by your price, that's $20,000.
Not quite $1 million.
Exactly. This is where those revenue dials come in.
Revenue dials.
Think of them like nogs on a soundboard, things you can adjust to increase your earning potential.
Like what? Give me some examples.
So for Kagan, maybe selling individual bags of jerky at $10 a pop isn't going to cut it. But what if he offered a subscription? Monthly jerky delivery.
Recurring revenue. Smart.
Right. Or instead of just individual customers, he could target offices. They've got bigger budgets for snacks.
Okay, I'm getting it. So instead of scrapping the whole idea if the initial numbers aren't there, you get creative, find those levers to pull. Did the sumo jerky thing ever pan out?
That's a story for another time. The point is, this 1-minute model helps you figure out if an idea is worth your time before you invest a ton of energy in it.
I like it. Efficient and effective. So let's say we've got our $1 million idea. We've crunched the numbers. We've fiddled with those revenue dials. What's next?
Time for validation. See if people actually put their money where their mouth is.
No more hypotheticals. Time to test this thing in the real world.
Exactly. And Kagan has a challenge for this too, of course. The 48-hour money challenge.
Laid it on me.
You ready? You have 48 hours to secure 3 paying customers.
Talk about pressure.
But it's the best way to prove your idea is viable, you know?
Absolutely. No more mateys, just cold, hard cash. So how do we actually do it? Give us the tactics.
Well, for Kagan, it's all about building real connections, providing value, and that kind of leads us to his thoughts on social media. He actually tells this great story about Bo Jackson.
Bo Jackson,
Yeah.
the athlete.
The one and only.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What does this have to do with, like, building a business?
So Kagan's a huge Bo Jackson fan, always wanted to meet him. Turns out Bo organized this charity bike ride in Alabama.
Okay.
And Kagan was like, perfect opportunity, not just to meet his hero, but also to support a good cause.
So he just, like, showed up with a big novelty check?
Not quite. He decided to use his own platform, his online following, to rally support for the ride, put out a call to action, ask people to donate. In 3 days, he raised $30,000, mostly from, like, small donations from his most loyal followers.
Wow, that's amazing.
But here's the thing. He knew a lot of those people personally. They weren't just random names on a screen. He'd built real relationships with them.
It's that whole know, like, and trust factor.
Yeah.
But amplified because it was for a good cause, too.
Exactly. It proved to him the power of genuine connection online.
Okay, but we're not all going to be lucky enough to, befriend Bo Jackson. How do we use this to grow our own businesses?
That's where the content circle framework comes in. You got to figure out your people, your tribe. Then you create content specifically for them.
So, like, niching down, getting really specific.
Exactly. He talks about this guy, Dustin, who started a YouTube channel all about fish tanks.
Fish tanks.
Yep. Sounds kind of niche, right? But he was super passionate about it, made these awesome, informative videos.
So he became the fish tank guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And built a huge following because of
It
it.
shows that passion is contagious.
Yeah.
People respond to that. So we've got social media for community. What about actually turning those followers into, paying customers?
Email, my friend. Email is king.
Really? Email. I feel like everyone's always talking about social media these days.
I know, right? But Kagan says he'd trade all his social media followers for his email list in a heartbeat.
Wow. Why is that?
Control. With social media, the algorithms are always changing, your reach is limited. But email, that's a direct line to your people.
It's your own platform.
100%. You set the rules. He actually tells the story about a real estate guy who bought this massive email list.
Oh, that was going to be good.
Hundreds of thousands of addresses. Thought he'd struck gold. But turns out most of those people couldn't care less about real estate.
Ouch.
So yeah, quality over quantity.
Always. But, okay, how do we make sure our emails don't end up in the spam folder? What makes people actually want to read them?
Kagan's a big believer in personality, telling stories. He talks about this guy, Neville, who completely changed how he approached email marketing.
Okay, how so?
Neville basically forced him to loosen up, ditch the corporate speak, have some fun.
I like where this is going.
So they wrote this email, and get this, about fonts.
Fonts.
Yep, sounds crazy, but that one email made over $10,000 in sales.
No way. An email about fonts.
It was funny, it was different, it was memorable.
And clearly, it worked. Okay, so strong email list, great content, check and check. But how do we keep that momentum going long term?
Kagan calls it the Law of 100.
Law of 100. I like it. Explain.
It's about shifting your focus. Instead of worrying about the outcome of any one thing.
Like whether a single Instagram post goes viral or not.
Exactly. You focus on the output. You commit to doing 100 of whatever it is you do.
So 100 Instagram posts, 100 blog posts, 100 customer calls.
You got it. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
It's about trusting the process, putting in the work consistently.
And Kagan tells this cool story about a photography professor. Divided his class in half. One group had to take a single perfect photo.
Oh, I see where this is going. The other group had to take a bunch of photos.
100, to be exact. And guess what? The quantity group, their work was way better.
Because they were experimenting more, learning as they went.
Exactly. The quality group got two in their heads about it.
So law of 100, we'd love to see it. Okay, what else? What about marketing?
Ah, yes. This is where experiment-based marketing comes in.
Ooh, that sounds kind of dangerous. I'm in.
Basically, you become a scientist. Each week is a new experiment.
Okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down.
So he uses this example of his friend, Daniel, who invented these special glasses for rock climbers.
Okay.
Belay glasses, they're called. Help you see upwards without cranking your neck. Anyway, he didn't know the best way to sell these things.
So, time to experiment.
He tried everything. Reaching out to gyms, selling online, even wholesaling to climbing shops, and he tracked everything.
What worked, what didn't? Data-driven. I like it.
And you know what he found? Wholesaling. That was his golden ticket. Never would have guessed it.
That's so cool. So by being willing to experiment, he found this whole new avenue for growth.
100%. And that's the beauty of it. You have to be open to trying new things, seeing what sticks.
So we've covered a ton today. Fear, finding your idea, social media, email, the law of 100.
Don't forget experiment-based marketing.
Right. It's a lot, but I feel like the main takeaway from Million Dollar Weekend is that there's no magic bullet. It's about action.
100%. It's about embracing the unknown, experimenting, and just starting.
So if you're feeling inspired, why not pick one thing from today's deep dive and try it? The dollar challenge. Maybe brainstorming some customer-first business ideas.
Or even just writing down that dream year list that Kagan talks about.
Such a good one. And if you want even more, definitely check out the book.
$1 Million Weekend by Noah Kagan. Can't recommend it enough.
And on that note, we'll wrap things up. Until next time, keep diving deep.